What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is some of your guys, for some reason, you guys like to live vicariously through me and see how much money I spend on Subarus, and you know, the rabbit hole is just never ending. So we're doing it again. How much money have I poured into, how much money has Tanner poured into a Subaru this time? Honestly, I think this is the second most expensive build we've done, closely following, I think in order from most expensive is the 6-cylinder STI, this one, last revision of this car, and then the BRZ. So, as you guys remember last time, the old setup that this car had was an FP Black, a Type RA short block, and I think the total cost for that entire setup with all the fueling and all the supporting mods and everything came out to about $17,500-ish. I'll link that video down in the description, so if you guys want to go compare and contrast this video, you definitely can. So, let's jump into it of how much money I've poured into a Subaru. So these case halves, as you guys know, we built this engine in the garage. These case halves are out of an 06 STI. I got those case halves for free. If you guys are looking to build your own motor, you can get like used case halves super cheap or like super free on like OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, places like that. People just throwing out their old blocks when they're upgrading. So we sent this case half set down to Outfront Motors. Now they did a V3 closed decking service for us. They drilled the short block to accept 1/2-inch head studs. They rebored the cylinders. Jesus, they rebored the cylinders to 99.75 using some pistons that I got through them, which are the JE pistons. Nice piston. Not a lot of piston slap on cold start, surprisingly. But to have them go through, oh, and they detailed the block, which means they just cleaned it. So to have them go and do all that, it was about $1,455 just for the block service. That's not assembly or anything like that, because we did all the assembly, we did all the labor. It was just for the block. And then you're gonna need the head studs because you gotta bolt the heads on somehow. Like I said, we went with 1/2-inch head studs, so we got Outfront's 1/2-inch head studs, which came out to another $480. Which, you know, in the grand scheme of things, isn't a ton for head studs because other head studs get more expensive. So, you know, it is what it is. Those JE pistons that we got from Outfront were around another $757 MSRP on that. I don't know, as we go through this, I don't know how much money I've spent. All I did was pull the MSRP pricing off of all this stuff, so if you guys want to go cut, copy, paste, you can. But keep in mind, you may find deals out there that are significantly cheaper than these prices that I'm listing, so just keep that in mind as we go through this. Now, for rods, I got the Manley H-Tough Plus. That was hot. I got the Manley H-Tough Plus rods because I wanted something that was a little bit beefier that could take a little bit of use. Those rods came in at about $727. Not cheap for rods. You can definitely get cheaper rods out there, but keep in mind, you're gonna want something strong if you're trying to push some power. And then connected to those rods, I just got an OEM brand new STI. I wanna say it's like 2019 plus nitrated crankshaft. It's a good crank. It's a good OEM crank. For like $300, can't really complain for a brand new crank. Bearings, I have King bearings in all of this. The mains and the rods are all King bearings. I think each bearing set came in at about $60 to $70 or so for about $130, we'll say, for bearings. And then I opted for this. You necessarily don't have to. I got the ARP case bolts, just a little bit stronger. A, I didn't want to reuse my old OEM ones. B, I didn't want to buy new OEM ones. And C, if we want, but we have stronger bolts in there now, so, you know, stronger bolts. Now, for all of just the engine work to build the short block was a total cost of about $4,260.97, which is not too bad. This engine is rated to 750 crank horsepower, which for a Subaru translates down to about like 620 wheel horsepower. I'll probably push it past that. So, I mean, for what I paid for all the stuff to put this thing together, it's pretty much in the territory of what other short blocks cost if you have somebody else assemble it. Because keep in mind, like if you have somebody else assemble your short block, you're looking at like an additional $1,000 labor on top of that. But if you're feeling up to the task, definitely consider doing it yourself. So not bad for the short block. Now for the cylinder head. So not too much, actually literally nothing changed with the cylinder heads with this setup versus our last one, with the exception of the head gasket. On this set we're running the JE Pro Seals. I want to say those were about $120 or so, but to go over the heads, we have BC 272 cams. I don't like saying stages for cams. They're BC 272 cams. Those are about $725. If you guys remember from when we first got this car, that Type RA short block came with those cams, which was a huge price savings for us because that way we didn't have to go buy new cams or anything like that. Cams are totally serviceable and everything like that. Now what we did, because if you remember when we first got it, it had 4 bent intake valves on the driver's side head. Now we replaced all those. We have Manley stainless steel intake and exhaust valves. Now they're standard size. It's about $300 total for the intake and the exhaust set. If you're looking for just intake or exhaust, it's about $150 per set. We're running the Brian Crower stainless steel valve springs in this one, $171 for those. GSC valve guides, they are the stopper style for intake and exhaust. That's about $100 for the set of those. And then the IAG IAG billet half moons in this one, just because I didn't want to use the old. I don't like the OE half moons. They're like weird plastic stuff and they end up leaking over time. So for cylinder head stuff, if you're looking to do that without the cost of valve buckets, because you may be able to reuse yours, if you're having a machine shop do it, the price on that is going to vary. But just in parts, we're looking at about $1,341. If you want to tack in the machine shop costs that it cost me to have them, like regrind valves, recut valve seats and everything like that, tack in another $300, $350 or so, came out to about $1,700 if you want to just total the head stuff like that. Now for the fuel system on this car, because we need a beefy fuel system to support all the E85 that we're going to be running through this thing, we are running a Radium dual fuel pump hanger in this car with two AEM 340 liter pumps with a custom -6 feed line going from the fuel pumps all the way up into the engine bay, because we're no longer using that stock hard line. Now that fuel pump setup is not cheap. I have one of these in the other STI as well. That fuel pump for the hanger and the fuel pumps comes in at $729. With that, I don't like Radium's wiring kit that they give you. It's a universal wiring kit. It works, but for us, we're using iWire's hardwire kit that utilizes the OE wiring and has a Hobbs switch for the second pump. So the second pump doesn't kick on until the intake manifold sees above 15 psi of boost or positive pressure, so that way it knows when to like kick on the second fuel pump, just so we're not like using a ton of fuel, making it a little bit uncontrollable. That hardwire kit's another $375. So if you're looking for just that pump and wiring setup, it's not the cheapest, comes in at about $1,100 total, but I promise you that wiring harness is going to make your life a lot easier if you go to install one of them. Now up in the engine bay, we have IAG fuel rails with some custom made fuel line using Vibrant fuel line and Vibrant fittings. Personally, I like the Vibrant fittings because they're I like the Vibrant fuel line because it is E85 friendly for a like a nylon braid style versus having to go to PTFE. Not a huge fan of PTFE lines if I can avoid it, so pretty good on that one. I think for fuel lines and fuel fittings is about $200 or so, and that includes the 20 feet roll that I got for the pumps up into the engine bay. Now for injectors, we're using ID 1700s. Prior to that, we had ID 1300s in the car. They just weren't going to be up to snuff for the E85 that we're going to be pushing through this thing, so we did bump those up. Those came out at about $1,160, but here's the thing with injectors. ID 1300s and ID 1700s, I am pretty sure are damn near the exact same price. Pretty sure they're the exact same price. We're also running the Cobb flex fuel sensor and Cobb fuel pressure sensor kit, just so that way we're able to monitor fuel pressure on the access port and in the ECU. So for that flex fuel sensor, that's $600, and the fuel pressure sensor another $225. And then the smaller supporting stuff for the fuel system, we just have an Aeromotive A1000 for the fuel pressure regulator, and then an Aeromotive inline fuel filter that I have mounted underneath the car. So for total fuel system stuff, just for the car, you're looking at about another $3,800. So far, I have no idea what we've totaled up to, but we have yet to get to the most expensive part or series of these mods. So we've covered fuel system, short block, cylinder heads. Let's get into supporting mods, because those are kind of what help make the power. So as you can see, the giant red intake manifold, we are running an AMS reverse intake manifold. At first I had the stock location one, and that just wasn't going to work with the IAG AOS that we had in here of where it's mounted. So we did get this one. This comes in at about $1,150 regardless of color or mounting style, I guess you could call it, for whatever you get. It's going to be about the same price either way. And then, as you guys know, we did a custom rotated kit. It's not a kit, but it's a custom rotated turbo setup. So we had Fuse Fabrication, Kyle, come up, make us a Fuse Smeedia rotated kit that includes the up pipe and the down pipe. Now the up pipe, well, yeah, it's just the up pipe and the down pipe that comes in at about $1,200 for the fabrication cost on that. Then attached to our beautiful rotated setup, we have a Precision 6062. I'm gonna end up swapping the exhaust housing on that in the future, but that turbo came in at about another $1,900. Right now it's a T4 open flange on the hot side. We're gonna be swapping that out to a V-band style, having Kyle swap out that flange for us, so that way we can get it properly mounted on there and get a little bit better exhaust flow out of that thing to make a little bit more power. Now for this next one, I reduced cost a little bit, mainly because we didn't really use it. On the last setup, we had a Cobb intercooler kit, but now we only have the Cobb intercooler core with some of the piping. So I'm gonna chalk this next one up as just the Cobb intercooler core, which comes in at about $895, but if you guys are doing a turbo setup, I would highly suggest getting like ETS or something along those lines instead of the Cobb one. Cobb one's great, but ETS a little bit cheaper, I believe. And then for the map sensor, we're also using a Cobb 4-bar map sensor. Nothing changed there from the last setup. instead of a bypass valve on this car like we had on the last one, we are now running a precision 50mm blow-off valve because we are now fully on speed density. There's no need for us to be able to, or there's just no need to recirculate air back into the intake tract. Everything is speed density calculated now in volumetric efficiency tables, and it takes care of all of that. Now with the turbo kit, I should have touched on this a little bit earlier, we are running a tile 38mm external wastegate as well. Nothing changed there from the last one. For the price of that blow-off valve, by the way, it was $240. For the price of that wastegate, it's about $300. Nothing so much changed with these next mods from the last setup, but I will go over them. We're still using the Killer Bee Holy header. It's the 2-bolt. That one is about $1,300 brand new. The Cobb 3-port boost controller, we still have that. I've just moved it, and we are now venting port 3 to the atmosphere instead of back to the intake manifold. It's about $115. All boost controllers are pretty much going to do the same thing for 3 ports. Pick whatever flavor you want. They're all pretty much the exact same. We're still running the Visconti tuning speed density conversion kit. This is their hybrid kit, so that way if we had a MAF sensor, it would still plug into the MAF sensor, but obviously there is no MAF sensor anymore. For that kit, if you get it with the IAT sensor, that is about $160. And then the Greddy RS catback is still the same catback that came on the car when I bought it. If you're wanting that one brand new, it's about $646. And then the Cobb access port, which is $675, which makes e-tuning and dyno tuning and street tuning pretty much essential. For all the supporting mods, this is the biggest category that we have. That came in at about $877.94. It's not cheap, but keep in mind that all of these mods and everything we've done to this car has been accumulated over the course of a year or so, or what feels like a year, 10 months now. So it's not like all of these mods were purchased overnight and installed on the car the next day. This has been over the course of many moons. Now I'm calling this the reliability category, but you can call it whatever you want. We have the IAG oil pan kit. That's about $600. That is one thing that changed. I still have my Killer Bee kit here that we're going to be using on a different car. But for that IAG oil pan kit, you're looking at about $600. That comes with the oil pickup, the windage tray, and the oil pan itself. They have multiple different categories of oil pan, so if you're wanting a different one, price may vary on that. We're also running the IAG competition series air oil separator. As you can see, we got the giant dong of a hose hanging down underneath the car. That's another $400. The street series and the comp series, I believe, are the exact same price. This is one thing that did change from the last setup. There used to be a Mishimoto radiator on the car. Now we're running a Koyo. If you're wanting to go to a Koyo radiator, it's about $300 for that radiator. I actually like it a lot more than the Mishimoto one. It comes with an integrated 1/8 NPT bung for like a coolant temp sensor if you wanted to, which I am fully utilizing, so highly suggest the Koyo if anyone's wanting that. And then as you guys remember, our friends at DC Engineering sent up one of their awesome 180 amp alternators. We still have that from the prior setup as well. It's another $580 if you are wanting one of these. I did notice that it did help just kind of smooth out idling a little bit more, so it's one thing that I do advise. And it looks killer. You can get it in like any anodized finish that you want. And then we also have the cylinder 4 cooling mod. That one's like $85. So total for reliability mods came out to about $2,000, $1,964. And then to handle all of the power that we have on the car, we needed a clutch that would be up to snuff. We used to have the ACT HDSS on the car. That one I believe was only rated to 550 foot-pounds of torque or so at the crank. Now we are running the ACT Extreme Duty 6-puck clutch with the same street light flywheel. That combo was about $1,050. Now I actually really like that 6-puck a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it was going to be a lot more aggressive to drive, and it's actually not that bad. Not that bad. Now, if we add up all of these categories for everything, we're looking at a grand total of $21,183.52 for a car that is capable of a little north of 600 horsepower as it sits now. Like I said, if we swap out that hot side on that turbo for a V-band 0.82 AR, for that turbo, it'll definitely make more than that. However, this is a very capable setup that can hold some decent power. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, if you guys remember when we did the last setup on this car, it came out to about $17,500. So to go from $17,500 for a car that made 460 wheel horsepower to this setup, which was what, $3,500 more than that old setup, that's actually not that bad. And a lot of the parts we reused from that last setup. I think the only things that we changed were the injectors, the turbo, the up pipe, the down pipe, and the fuel system. I think that's about the majority of what we changed and the major difference in cost between the two of them. Which, you know, I'm a lot happier with this setup. It's a lot more clean in the engine bay. It's a lot easier to work on things, and it's a lot easier to get to stuff. However, I say this in all of these price videos that we do, you can do it cheaper. Yes, and it is very expensive to build a Subaru. Yes. However, keep in mind, these cars are not, they're not made to make power excessively easy and just 600 horsepower. It's not a V8, it's not a V6 twin turbo, it's not an inline 6 with a turbo strap to it. It's a flat 4 with a turbo strap to it. So it's not made for going fast in a straight line. You can do it. You can definitely do it. People do it all the time. It's just not the most cost-effective thing. If you're looking for something like that, highly suggest a different car as always. But I hope this gives you guys a little bit more insight into how much it costs to do like a full setup like this, especially in comparison to the last one that we did. It's kind of cool to be able to compare and contrast the two of them. Like I said, I will link that video down in the description below. But that's all I got for you guys on this one. I just want to do a quick video going over everything, how much we have spent, what we've done, what it's capable of. Like I said, we are still e-tuning the car. We still have the entire E85 setup to do on the car for tuning, for the tuning side of things. We're just about done with the pump gas stuff. I think the most it made on pump gas so far was 515 wheel horsepower and like 439 foot-pounds of torque, with redline being set to 7,500 RPM. So we'll see what it does on E85. I'm trying to get in touch with Precision right now to get that other hot side ordered for the turbo. I will get that one coated since I don't need it ASAP, but I'd like to get it on the car. But going off on a tangent, topic, thing, call it whatever you want. But anyways, that's all I've got for you guys on this one. If you like the video, you know what to do. Go ahead, hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color it turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be, go ahead, hit your boy up one of these corners. No idea which one it'll be in quite yet, because we still don't know how much power this car is going to make, and there's still some tuning videos coming at you for this one as we continue to e-tune with Josh over at Baderbilt. So with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies. Woo! Woo! Woo!